Hi everyone, I'm Julia Choi.
And I'm Hope Zamora, and this is a presentation on bullying and how to best support your child if they experience it. And we created this presentation with guidance from our social worker, Leigh Horne-Mebel.
So why are we talking about bullying at a sunflower syndrome conference? According to a recent study by Barnett et al., 37% of patients with sunflower syndrome reported social isolation or bullying due to their hand-waving episodes.
So to define bullying, bullying is considered cruel and purposeful behavior repeated over time and involving an imbalance of power. Bullying is different than being rude or mean. Because rude behavior, although upsetting, is unintentional and infrequent, and mean behavior, although intentional, only normally occurs once or twice. Bullying is repeated, intentional, and hurtful behavior.
An effective way of understanding bullying is remembering the 3 Ps, which stands for purposeful, patterned, and power imbalance. Bullying is hurtful behavior done on purpose. It is intentional, targeted, and thought out. It is behavior that has a pattern and is repeated over time. Bullying is routine to the point of almost being predictable, which can lead to avoidance of certain areas or situations. Bullying is behavior that is all about power. A bully seeks control and influence over the targeted individual, and the bully sees themselves as more powerful, either physically or mentally, than the individual.
People bully for a lot of reasons. Bullies may want to gain power and increase their social status by displaying toughness or diminishing the statuses of others. Bullies may want to maintain perceived power and control that they receive from dominating others. Sometimes bullies project their own insecurities on others. They may single out those who are different because they feel pressured to fit in themselves. They may also use others as an outlet for negative emotions like anger or jealousy, or may bully to seek attention from their peers. Also, sometimes bullies will do so just because they don't understand what's going on. Bullies often bully because they know that they can. They know when and where they can bully and most likely get away with it, at least for the time being. So, areas like the cafeteria, the locker room, or the bus can be hotspots for bullying because teachers aren't around to monitor behaviors.
So, why are kids with sunflower syndrome a target for bullying? Bullies can perceive children with medical conditions to have less power than them. Bullies may be jealous of the special attention that kids with sunflower syndrome may receive. There's a great peer pressure to fit in, especially in middle school. If a kid looks different because of a physical or verbal attribute, they may be more likely to experience bullying. In this case, kids with sunflower syndrome stand out because of their hand waving or because of the things that they wear to prevent hand waving, such as hats or sunglasses. Bullies take advantage of the fact that kids who stand out may lack a social network of friends to support and stick up for them. Most importantly, bullies and other children are not usually educated on the hand waving episodes that are characteristic of sunflower syndrome. Oftentimes, bullies target what they don't understand. Once they learn that hand waving is not within the child's control, the bullying typically stops. This is why education is a crucial part in combating bullying.
So, when does bullying take place? Bullying can happen to anyone regardless of age, but it normally starts in elementary school when kids tend to overreport bullying because they misperceive rude and mean behaviors as bullying. Regardless, all reports, even from elementary school children, should be taken seriously because there's always a chance that it could be bullying behavior. Middle school, this overreporting tends to go way down to underreporting. In middle school, it's particularly challenging because kids are developing at different rates, both physically and mentally. So bullies can target those who are developing slower or faster than them. There is more complexity in relationships, a surge in hormones and bodily changes, and the introduction of social media, along with the newfound independence and desire to establish a unique identity and to be liked and accepted by peers. So, the newfound desire for independence can lead to underreporting of bullying because of the desire to solve problems on their own. But when kids try to address or cope with bullying by themselves, the problem is less likely to be resolved and additional issues can arise. Underreporting continues in high school, where kids will avoid reporting bullying because of fears of retribution or social ostracism?
So several signs that a child is being bullied is unexplained injuries, frequent headaches, stomach aches, and feeling sick, which are examples of psychosomatic symptoms, which is physical pain or discomfort that can result from psychological stress, changes in mood, decline in grades, and or experience of school anxiety or school refusal, sudden loss of friends, avoidance of social situations, marked decrease of self-confidence, self-destructive behaviors, loss of property, changes in eating habits, sleeping difficulties, nightmares, and unexplained and unusual anger or aggression.
But we could not stop our discussion of bullying without mentioning cyberbullying, especially in the context of the pandemic when many children are going to school virtually or in a hybrid setting. So, cyberbullying is the use of electronic communications to bully a person, typically by sending messages of an intimidating or threatening nature.
So cyberbullying can occur over several virtual platforms, including social media, texting, instant messaging, and email. Social media is particularly important because it allows other people to have constant exposure to those around them. It can act as an attention economy by taking a child's attention away from more meaningful parts of life. Social media is a highlight reel, creating the illusion of a more exciting and perfect life. This constant exposure allows for people to compare themselves to others and can have a profound impact on their self esteem. Those who are bullied can feel isolated and left out, which can be exacerbated with social media. These things are especially relevant through the virtual learning environment in this pandemic. Certain forms of social media are particularly unique, like Snapchat and TikTok. With Snapchat, messages automatically disappear unless it is saved by the individual, and this can make it difficult to have proof of bullying when it is reported. With TikTok, the algorithm is set up so that anyone can go viral and end up on any stranger's feeds. Group chats can also allow for bullying. Kids can be kicked out or removed from group chats and must be added by someone else to get back in. In general, social media and texting allow for bullies to hide behind a screen and be even more vocal.
Cyberbullying has some unique concerns relative to everyday bullying. Firstly, cyberbullying is persistent. Because digital services are available 24/7, cyberbullies can access your child at any time or in any situation. Cyberbullying is also permanent. Most information online becomes part of a public record if not removed, and the content an individual shares online, both personal content as well as any negative, mean, or rude content, becomes a kind of permanent record of someone's online reputation, which can be accessed in the future by employers, schools, colleges, and other organizations. Finally, cyberbullying is hard to recognize because it's not immediately visible to adults, and in all but 18 states, it's not protected by standard laws for bullying.
So there are different ways to prevent bullying. It's important to get involved with your child's school, to communicate openly and regularly with your child and their teachers, to be a role model by taking a stand against bullying and being resilient against adversity, and to be persistent. So go through the hierarchy of communication if the bullying is not resolved initially, and remember that bullying is illegal throughout the US. For example, if your child's teacher is not taking appropriate action, go to your child's guidance counselor or vice principal. We will show you an example of this in a few slides. Be sure to save all documentation of communications, preferably in writing. And if your child has an IEP or 504 plan, a goal regarding bullying could be included. Develop relationships with all of your child's friends and, if possible, their parents. And lastly, facilitate ways to educate your child's teachers and classmates about sunflower syndrome.
In addition to the previously mentioned steps, how to specifically prevent cyberbullying has some additional steps. Firstly, you can make a contract with your child about having curfews and set limits on the amount of internet and phone use that they can have on any given day, so cyberbullies won't have constant access to your child. You can set parental controls on social media applications and also ensure that all of your child's applications are set to private so they can control who has access to their posts. You can ensure that your child recognizes that access to social media and other forms of online entertainment are a privilege. And you can also pay attention to your child's use of electronics and the emotions that are associated with that use. So here are some examples of contracts you can make with your children regarding the use of electronics. The one on the left is for high schoolers, and the one on the right is for kids in the grades 6 through 8. So in signing these contracts, your children would agree to make their best efforts to keep themselves safe, to think before they post, among other things, and in turn, parents agree to be open-minded and respect their children's privacy. These contracts and a digital media planning tool can be found at www.healthychildren.org.
So here are different ways that you can respond to bullying. As you can see, this is a chart that lists both problems and what you can do about them. So if you look to the chart on your right, you can see the hierarchy of communication that I'd mentioned earlier if a child is being bullied in school. So what you can do is contact the teacher, and if they're not taking appropriate action, you can contact their school counselor, school principal, the superintendent, and the State Department of Education. And if the school isn't adequately addressing harassment based on discrimination of any kind, you should contact the state or US Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights, or the US Department of Justice in the Civil Rights Division. As you can see, there's also other resources available for crime, immediate risk of harm, suicide, and mental health. And you can get more information on these resources at stopbullying.gov.
And finally, like cyberbullying, this would not be a coherent bullying presentation without addressing the bullying that can occur to adults. Bullying is not limited to children and adolescents. Bullying can occur among adults in higher education, the workplace, at children's athletic games, in politics, and in personal relationships. And oftentimes, adults have the opportunity to discuss bullying behavior and how to address it with their children.
So again, why have we talked about bullying at this Sunflower Syndrome conference? Because we're hopeful that increasing awareness and understanding of Sunflower Syndrome will lead to a decrease in bullying and other psychosocial burdens of Sunflower Syndrome.
Thank you for listening.